What I'm about to show you is a small clip from a training that I did recently, and at the end of the video I'm going to come back to you, because if you'd like to actually participate in a full 4-hour free training that we are currently offering, then I'll give you the details about that at the end of this video. So the next thing we want to look at is when you look at a site and you found something, you want to make sure that you find all the pitfalls. So we have a process for this. It's very much process driven. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we establish what the value of the site is. And this is just doing what surveyors do, essentially finding out recently sold prices, current new build prices, and current asking prices, and making an assessment. Because what we want to do is to come out with a pounds per square metre to give us our GDV value. And then what we need to now establish is what our build costs are. And this is one of the biggest struggles that most people face, because people will often ask me, how much does it cost to build? And in fact, one of the questions I got tonight was, what's the current build costs? And the problem with that is that I don't know where they are in your area, and it's for several reasons. One is the labour rates vary around the country. The second is that even material prices vary around the country. So that's the first two variables. But then it's down to the specification. Is it a low specification, a higher specification, mid specification? Is there any particular things that the planners are going to put in place because it's got a certain local vernacular? So for instance, if you imagine if you were to build something in the Cotswold, you can't do the typical, Barrett type new build there. You're going to have something that looks like the existing infrastructures that are around there. So there's lots of different elements that come into it. And the way that we solve this for our students is that we created a program, and this is all part of a program incidentally, but we created this program where you can actually assess the costs for your area. So it's a model house, and you're able to go in and adjust the local rates, and that will filter through into the program and change. So it's broken down into every item that needs to be done in the construction of a house, the time it takes, and so when you change the labor rate, it changes the labor rate and therefore the costing on that particular job, that particular element of the job. And then similarly with the materials. So if you had, say, 1,500 blocks and it was priced in the program at, say, £1.10, but you were buying them for, say, £1.30, then you could put in the price £1.30, and then it would price up the blocks based on the £1.30 or 90 pence a block, if that happened to be the case, whichever way it went. Although I very much doubt you're going to get them for 90 pence today. But nevertheless, that's how it kind of works, so that you're able to come to whatever the build cost is. And we separate build cost for the physical structure of the house itself, and then we separate the other costs, which we call development costs, because there's certainly, if you build more than one house, there tends to be economies of scale. So for instance, if you are building foundations, you have to bring plant in order to build the foundations. And if you bring it in and then taking it away, you've got transport costs either side of that. Well, you're still going to have those transport costs either side of that if you were building 5 houses, but you haven't got it times 5 the number of houses. So we break down the development costs separately. So these are the things that are not just specific to that particular house. And also there's other things like, for instance, if you've got the same style house, then it's one set of planning drawings. So it's an architect drawing up those drawings, but it's only one design. It's not 5 designs, which would be obviously more expensive. So all the different costs, bringing in services and all that, we count as development costs. The provision of welfare facilities, and everything else. So that's broken down into those costs. And then finally, what we're trying to do is achieve what we talked about, is do we have a viable proposition? So this is part of a desktop appraisal where we very quickly nail down whether this is a viable one, where it gives us, there is still some money left in the residual land value, and therefore we can negotiate to that price. Or if there's not, if it's a negative figure, then there's no point in doing so, and we may as well walk away from that. Um, so if it passes this initial desktop appraisal, then we go into a much more detailed appraisal. We've got a couple of different phases for that. We have what we call a first look. And then once we do that, then we're getting into much more detailed appraisal because everything seems to be stacking up. Looks like it's a worthwhile proposition. And we're maybe going to spend a little bit of money as well. We might get some reports done, and we're going to certainly spend a lot more time on it. So the idea of the desktop appraisal is to either exclude it or include it in our prospective sites, so that we're only focusing and spending our time on the ones that actually are going to stack up. So, and we do need absolute clarity on these values, because that's going to determine what we are going to pay for the site itself. And if we get that wrong, there's no way to really recover that money later on. So it's critical that we do that. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, we have a free training that we're now offering. This is actually the training that we used to do as a one-day event, and we've decided to bring it online because we have difficulty getting people to travel across the country for just a one-day event, and so therefore, at the request of many of people who are interested in this program, we've now moved it online. However, we are restricting it to 10 people, and the reason for that is because we are actually going to find land in your particular area. So we'd make it very much personalized. This is not a recorded event. It's personalized to each of the delegates that are going to be on that. And for that reason, because it's got the added value, although it's free, we do ask that you pay a £99 deposit. And what we do require is that you attend right from the beginning to the end, that you have your cameras on so that we have active participation. So what we're trying to do is to create the same event online that we would have done in person. So we have that interaction. There's plenty of time for questions and answers, and we basically follow the format of first finding land. How do you find land? How do you evaluate land? And then we go on to talk about how do you fund those developments. So if this interests you, then head over to propertydevelopmentuk.com. That's propertydevelopmentuk.com, and you will find the next available date. You will find the details of what's included in the program and the ability to be able to sign up. If you decide to join us, then I look forward to meeting you online. Take care, and thank you for watching.